Hello guys, I attended an interview in a company name called Vega6, and this was the second round of the interview. First was the coding round, and this is my second round of the interview, and the interview date was the February 10, 2025. So they asked me about, tell me about yourself, and little bit they asked me about my project, and they asked me what are the session and cookies. So I said session stores data in server side for logged in user, and in the case of the cookies, store data client side on the user's browser for both logged in and logged logged in user or non-logged in users. Okay, so then they asked me what are the helpers in the coding matter. I said helpers are the ready-made function to help you perform simple tasks quickly, like creating links, form, or handling files. Also, they asked me how to load a helper. Yeah, how to load a helper. So I said for loading a helper, we use the load helper in your controller or model. Then this load helper in the bracket, we use the URL, and then now we can use helper function echo base underscore URL about. So the output will be the your website.com/about. Okay. So then they asked me how to declare a helper. I said step to create and use a custom helper. Create a helper file. How? Navigate to application slash helper. Create a new file, for example, my underscore helper.php. Ensure the file name ends with the helpers.php. Then they asked me write function in the helper. So I said inside my helper.php we can define the custom function. If uh, function is not exist greet underscore user, then function greet user dollar name, then it will return the hello and you see first name. Okay, then they ask me how the load the helper in your controller or model. So I said the this load helper and in the bracket my. So now we can use the greet user function like echo greet user inside that John. So the output will be the hello John. So in the auto load the helper, so I said application underscore config underscore autoload dot php, then dollar autoload helper is equal to in the bracket my. So simply they asked me can you brief what actually are the helpers. So I said yes, helper are generally helpers are the some functions, some ready-made function which help you perform simple tasks quickly, like the creating links, form, or handling files. Okay, and simply we can say that the helpers are just a tool to make the coding faster and easier. Next question they asked me what are the hooks. So I said in CodeIgniter 4 hooks are replaced by the events. Till 3 CodeIgniter 3 there was hooks, now it is replaced by the events. So events in CodeIgniter are triggered actions that execute custom code at specific points in the application lifecycle, like before or after a controller runs. They help in logging, authentication, and performance monitoring without modifying the core files. Or I can say that the CodeIgniter 4 are like a triggers. Like in database, we have some concept of the trigger. So here is also these are like a trigger that let you run specific code for the precise moment, like before the page load, after a user logs in, without changing the original code. So for example, in our real world, we can think of like as alarm you set to perform task automatically when something happens. So simply the analogy for the hooks are the imagine imagine your app is a pizza delivery, and event is like saying when the oven time rings, that is the event, automatically send text to the customer your custom code. Okay, so or let us suppose there is one scenario, we want to show a under maintenance page before any page loads to any web browser. So we can use the event here. So pre-controller we can use here, and then config app maintenance mode, redirect to maintenance. So it will show the this page is under maintenance mode. Okay. So how it works: when someone tries to visit your site, coordinator checks the event before loading any page. If maintenance mode is true, it redirects to maintenance page. Like the key trigger points, easy to recall: pre underscore system before the app start, pre underscore controller before a page controller loads, post underscore controller, so after a page finish finishes loading. So key underscore trigger, pre underscore controller, post underscore controller. Okay, so events do this when that happens. So we can use it for the, so that we can memorize it. Do this when that happens. Okay, uh, even I have made some example for that, but that is very long code. Okay, like what I did is I created I created a project called event demo. Inside that, oath and register. Also inside oath there was some login page. So for registration we had some username and password, and similarly in the login, username and password. Okay, then we check the logs in our database table, login underscore logs, and also we can check in the directory called writable underscore logs, which is inside the coordinator 4. Okay, so conclusion is that the first we have to add authentication in the register underscore login, then use hooks or event to attempts login into attempts, then store login attempt in the database. Or you can also check it inside the writable and then logs. Okay, then they asked me validation in coordinator. How do you do validation in the coordinator? So I said, let us suppose first I set up a controller, form controller.php. Okay, and public function index, then return view form underscore view. Then we will create a function for the submit, public function submit, then helpers for load form helper, that form I will load that form. So helper and form, then validation. Then there are some defined validation rule in the coordinator. Like for the user, this is the required minimum length and maximum length. In the case of email, we have required, then valid email. Then in the case of password, required minimum length, whatever you want to keep inside the parameter. Okay, and then if this validate rules, then return form submitted successfully. Otherwise, this will go to the form view. Okay, also then we will create a view file. This was a controller. Now in the view file, just we'll create a form which has username, email, and password. Okay, then we will define the routes, or we can say the routes, like the routes get form, then controller is index, and route post form underscore submit, then form controller is submit. Okay, then we will run the project, and then we can check it in our browser. Also they ask me what are the traits in PHP. So I said PHP doesn't support multiple inheritance directly because a class in PHP can inherit from only one parent class. This restriction avoids the complexity and ambiguity of the diamonds problem, which can occur in the multiple inheritance scenario. For that, so they asked me, can you make a can you make an example for the trait in PHP? So I said yes. Trait logger, then public function log underscore dollar message echo log dollar message. Another trait I will make, trait notifier public function notify dollar message echo notification dollar message. Then I will create a class user. So we will use both the traits user, use logger and notifier. Public function create user dollar name echo user dollar name created. This log created user and dollar name. This notify user dollar name has been added. Then we'll create a object user equal to new user, then user create user alias, then user alias created. So log created user alias, notification user alias has been added. Okay, so they asked me what are the require and include. So I said require includes and evaluate the specific file. If the file is missing or inclusion fails, it causes a fatal error. So, or stopping the script execution. For example, on the PHP file I have is a config.php, and I am using the PHP echo config.file include, and in the main script require config.php, okay, and in require config.php. If okay, so we can use multiple times in require. If we are using same what do you call same same file multiple time, so it will give the input as many as time. So this is the require. In the case of include, if the file is not found or cannot be included, PHP will emit a warning and continue the execution the script, like PHP include helper.php. So if the include header.php, but if not found, the script continues. In the case of the require, execution stopped and it give the fatal error. But in the case of the include, it won't give any, it will just give a warning but not fatal error, and the execution will go on. Okay, so echo page content, so it will show the error. So that was the interview I gave on 10th Feb 2025, and the company name was the Vega6, and this was my second round. I will share more question in the for the same company for the third round. Till then, bye.